Today we're going to be covering the eForms application, obviously, but it will be specifically for uploading templates using PDFs and also using the designer mode. So without wasting any time, I'll jump right in. We have our templates, like we discussed, and then our packages. Our packages can consist of multiple templates that we send out to our customers. These templates or these packages can be the customer contact form, 3-day cancellation notice, all in one contract. So it's a combination of multiple templates that you want to deliver in one email to the customer. So that's where this package is in. So for the first time logging in, again, you'll have your tabs over here. So if you're an AlarmBiller user, you can toggle back and forth between eForms and AlarmBiller. And I'm just sitting on the templates tab right now. So templates right here, we have the name, which we discussed is just a specific name for this, the description, the category. If you haven't set up your categories, make sure you go into your setup and go under form categories, and you can label the specific type of category, because if you have multiple, let's say you have 40 forms and you just want to see your contracts, you can actually filter and just look for contains contracts, and you'll be able to filter and just view your contracts in the system. Integration, is this an integrated form? So are we integrated into AlarmBiller or Sedona Office? If we are, then we'll pick a data type, and the data type will be which level and what type of fields are we able to map, and I'll cover that when we go into the adding templates. If you don't have an integration, so you might have forms internally that you use. Maybe you have a credit card authorization form. Anybody in your company that wants to use a credit card, they need to fill out this form to get authorization. So this isn't just limited to specific forms that you're sending to your customers. This could be internal forms or any form that you want to, or template that you want to turn into an electronic document. Now, the PDF backdrop, did you upload a PDF, a blank PDF, and are you turning it into an electronic form? If you did, it'll say yes. If you didn't, it'll say no. That means you're using our designer mode to create your specific template. So if you're not using a PDF backdrop, a majority of the forms are probably going to be like a custom proposal that you might want to create, a central station, online notice, or update form. So different forms like that you can use with the designer mode WYSIWYG. Okay, so if we click Add Template, we'll try this again. We're just going to do contract here. And then you might have multiple contracts. So obviously maybe you have a commercial contract, a residential contract. If you're in PERS, maybe you have a PERS contract. So with the description, make sure you're descriptive. So when you're sending the form out, you know which specific one you're sending out. So we're just going to do contract residential. And I'll just do it for the name too. Okay, the type, these are your categories. So we're just going to say this is a contract. And then the integration, okay? The integration allows you to link this to AlarmBiller, or if you're a Sedona Office user, to Sedona Office. So I know this is was supposed to be specifically for AlarmBiller. I saw a couple of Sedona Office users logged in, so this will work and apply to them as well, for the most part, and I'll let you know if there's any features that aren't available for that. Basically, what I'm saying here is I want to link this to AlarmBiller, so I want to integrate this into AlarmBiller. You have to pick a data type. A data type is the fields. So if I link it, I have to say what it's linked to, okay, and which fields will I have available when I do link this. So if I pick proposal, for example, I'm going to have fields that are available on the proposal level, the system level for a customer, the site, and the customer. If I just pick the system, I'll have fields available from the system, the site, and the customer. And then if I pick site, and customer, and then customer. So it works on the hierarchy. Now, for example, if I pick a site level and I'm in a system and a customer and I want to send this template out, I'm not going to be able to access all of the forms that I have that are linked and integrated at the site level. And this will make a little bit more sense when I show you and I jump back into AlarmBiller and I show you how to deliver these forms. So for example, if I pick the site level and I go to send a template, I actually have to pick the customer and then I have to pick a specific site that I'm sending it for. So be careful when you're linking these data types that you link it and at the right level, and you're making sure that the fields are going to be mapped. Now, if you create a template, and let's just say, for example, you link it at the proposal level, okay, and you upload that contract, and you create all the fields, and you turn it into an electronic form, and you say, oh shoot, this actually, I just needed this to be linked at the customer level. You're not going to be able to create a copy and change this data type. You would have to re-upload the form and link it at the customer level. So you have to be very careful when you're creating these to say where it's linked at. And I will go through this in more in depth as we progress through the webinar. So if you have any questions about that, save them for the end. And if it still doesn't make sense, then I can elaborate a little bit more. So for this contract, I'm going to integrate it in AlarmBiller at the proposal level. And then if I clicked update right here and didn't upload a PDF, it would take me into design mode, and I would be using the WYSIWYG editor. Now, if I did upload a PDF, it will use the PDF backdrop that we talked about, and I'll be able to turn that PDF essentially into an electronic form. Okay, so you can either upload a PDF, and this is going to be directly from your workstation, or I can just drag this PDF in, and I can click update. Okay, and what this is doing now is it's taking that PDF that I uploaded. It's going to sit in the backdrop, and then now I can turn this PDF into an electronic form. You can only upload PDFs, so you're not going to be able to take a Word document and upload it. You just got to save the Word document as a PDF and then upload it, and make sure, obviously, in that Word document that all the fields that you are going to fill out electronically, that you have those blank. So when you're creating this, you're able to just have those fields either auto-populate or fill out electronically. So now that we have our form in, we're going to start at the top here. What we have is our tools. These are some quick tools to get you started. And we're going to walk through all of these. So for example, there's a picture. So maybe if you didn't have a logo or you wanted to drag a picture in, you could drag a picture. And when we go through the design mode with WYSIWYG editor, I'll show you how to add that in. Text box. A text box is just going to be adding static text, okay? So static text is, I can go into this and can put any static text, and this will show on the form no matter what. You can also add what are called shared fields into a text box, which I will show you when we get to shared fields. And this will help you group those fields together and make them more aesthetically pleasing when you're sending this form out to the customer. So I'm going to delete that. And then we have a signature, so an electronic signature box. We have initials, if you have any initial boxes that can get electronically. Shape, right now the only shape is a line across. This can come in handy in proposals, and I'll show you best practices for using that. You have check boxes, and then you have radio buttons. And I'll show you the difference between the two of those when we get into form data. And then page number, which is self-explanatory. If this is multiple pages, it'll drag the page number in. Now, shared data. Shared data is all the customer data fields that I can map to a template. Now, since I picked the data type of proposal, I have access to fields from the customer level. So here's all my fields on the customer level. I have access to the fields in the proposal level, site level, system. Now, if I pick data type site, I would only have the customer and site, okay, as available fields to map onto here. So again, make sure you're careful with the fields that you pick for this. Form data. Form data are fields. These are like text fields. They're a date, electronic date. They're drop downs. They're check boxes, etc. That you can all label and you can make these fields editable for the sender to have to fill out or the recipient to be able to fill out. So for example, we're going to start at the top here. We have a date field. This date field, I want the sender to have to put in this electronic date before it's sent out. So I'm going to add a field in here. For the field name, there can't be any spaces, so I'm just going to say today's date. Go in, I'm going to say today's date, and this is going to be a date field. Okay, and I click add. Now that's going to add that to our form data library. Now I'm going to take that date field now and I'm going to drag it in here. So this is going to turn this into an electronic date when I send it out. Now I'm not done yet. I still need to tell the application when I'm sending or a user sending this form out, who has the ability to access this date field. So I'm going to say this is an editable field, this date field, and the sender is actually can edit and can put a date in, but it's not required. But I'm going to say it is required for the sender to send this out. So in order for this form to be sent out, this specific date field has to be entered by the specific sender. Now, if I wanted to make this editable for the recipient, which I don't, I could make this editable for the recipient as well. So this basically is saying right here, the sender is required to put in a date field, but the recipient can change that. And I'm going to uncheck that. Okay, so that's a date field. Now, subscriber's name, you have two options here. You can either have it so I can create this as a form data field where I can put in name, and I can have this as a text field where it has to be typed in either time. But since we have this integrated, let's just say that we want the subscriber's name to be automatically populated on this form. Now I have two options. I can come to shared data here, and I can go into the customer, and I can put in the first name and last name. Okay, and this will automatically populate this form. And so if I go into a specific customer, or I pick a specific customer to send this to, it's automatically going to put that customer's first and last name in. Now, for the AlarmBiller users, if it's a business, it will pull in by the last name. Okay, so this last name is where the business, so this would be blank and this would be last name. If it's not, it will pull in the first name and last name. Now, I can also, for these shared data fields, I can say these are editable fields, and the recipient's able to edit this field. So what this is saying now is when I send this out for a specific customer, yes, it's going to automatically populate what we have as a subscriber's first and last name. But if that's wrong, I want to give the ability for the recipient to be able to edit that field, put in the correct name, and it will automatically update AlarmBiller with the appropriate information and update the records. So keep that in mind when you're adding this. Now, the only problem with setting it up this way for the first and last name is if it is a business, the last name is going to populate in the middle of the form. Okay, so what we can do for that is you can actually drag in a text box. And if you drag in this text box, you can format it and you can add in form data fields. So I can come into here and I can click add data. I can click on this share data for the customer, and then I can put in the first name. I'll do a space there. I can put in the last name. Click all right, and then in this text box, it's actually going to populate this. And so, for example, if there was it's going to format it. So if there is a first and last name, there'll just be a space in between, but you won't have that big gap. And if it's a business customer, it will actually push this to the left hash, and it will format it for you so you don't have the gap between the first and the last name. So a little trick for you. This will become really helpful. Same thing goes for the address. If you want to put in a text box for the address, you can drag that in, and then I can just come into this data here, and I can go. So for this address on this specific contract, I'm actually going to do the site address, which I'm guessing a majority of you would as well. And then we'll have the site address. So we're going to do the site, and then the city, state and zip. State, and then we're gonna put the zip in. Okay. So now that we have those, we can drag that across, and this will auto-populate a telephone number. This is a pretty simple one. We'll just go to the phone number under the customer, and we'll drag that in, and we'll say, I want to make this editable so the customer can, I don't want them editing this information, but they can edit the phone number if they'd like. So this will auto-populate that, and then for the cell phone, I can drag in that cell phone here too. Okay, can edit recipient. Now, with this specific contract, since I'm using proposals in AlarmBiller, I can have the purchase price, taxes total, everything but the down payment auto-populate too. So I know, so from a proposal level, when I create that, I want to have the net amount auto-populate this form. I don't want to make this editable for the customer. That's for the auto-populate on here. I want the tax amount. And then I want the total amount to auto-populate. Okay. Now, if I didn't have this information in AlarmBiller, or maybe I wasn't using estimates, that's fine. You can add a form data field, and that form data field would be a number field. And you would just label, the first one would be purchase price. And then I would drag it on as I did with the date, and I would say this is editable and is required for the sender. And then I would create another form data field. It would be a number field for the taxes, total, etc. Okay. And then we will do that for the down payment. So if I want to create a down payment field, so I can either do text or number. I'm going to do number. Click add, and then that's going to be a field that's going to be the down payment. Okay. And so this is a form data. It's an editable field. I want to say this can be edited by the sender, and it's required. And again, the recipient can't touch this field. Okay. So now at the top here, edit example data. Maybe, so if you have any form data fields in here, I have a down payment in today's date. I want to be able to see when I do send this out, what this form is going to look like. So I'm just going to put in an example. I'll put a down payment here. This is just to, I want to preview what this form will look like. And I'm going to put in today's date. Okay. Now, when I click preview up here, this is not going to trigger or send out any forms. This is, all this is a preview of what this form is going to look like if I was going to send it out. So I'm going to click preview. And here we have that form, and you can see this is what it's going to look like. So it's going to auto-populate that the name. And this is the name I have in AlarmBiller or Sedona office. Here's the address, cell phone, telephone number, and then these fields right here, these three were actually mapped. So these mapped based on that proposal data. And then this down payment, I actually went into that edit example data and put that 500 in. So that's what it would look like. So let's just say, for example, that this date field was too high and it was up here. I could manipulate it now, make it smaller, and make sure that it fit within that specific field and looked neat and detailed on the form. Okay? So that's how you can edit that example, and then you can preview what you have. Now, there's a couple other fields here. So we have the balance due upon completion. This would be the same thing. This would be another form data field, and it would be a number field that we could add in just as we did with the down payment. Okay, and then we have the approximate date of work to begin. Now we do have a date field here. When this date field is entered, let's just say that this date is going to be the same as this date and this date. Then all I would have to do is drag this date field in here, and when this date field up top was entered by the sender, it would auto-populate this date and auto-populate this date. Now, I don't want this for that specific form, but just know that's what will happen. So if you're creating a form and you create one date field and you drag it onto this form, and one of those fields are filled out before you send it, it will fill each of those fields that you drag on here. Now, if these are going to be separate dates, I create a separate date for that. So approximate date of work. This will be a separate date field, so I'll add that in the form data. I'll drag it in, okay, and then I'll say this can be edited by the sender. They're required before this can be sent out. Okay, now I'm going to save my work. Make sure you save this periodically, just in case you don't want anything to happen. A couple little things on the sidebar here. If you want the alignment to be different, you can change the alignment so you can see that actually centered it. You can change the size, the font, the color, the background, and then you can make any field full width if you'd like as well. And then if you're ever outside of the form, you'll see that was red on the border, so you need to make sure that it is the appropriate size for the specific field. Okay, now we're going to jump onto some checkboxes and the difference between a checkbox and a radio button. A checkbox you cannot make required. So a checkbox, you can come in here and add this checkbox in. You can see it actually when you added that checkbox, it turns it into a form data field. And so if you want to label it, you can. So for this field, this was just monitoring. You can click update, and that will let you know that this specific checkbox is monitoring. Okay, a radio button you can create and make it required. So if you dragged I would use, for this specific contract, I would use checkboxes for all of these. So the sender is going to be able to check these off, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can allow the recipient, and I'll show you that when we go over sending. But a radio button, for example, would be might be used for if they pick this, then they can't pick this. So if they pick option 1, they can't pick 2. If they pick option 2, they can't pick 1. So let's just do it for, we'll create a radio button for this portion. And this will be monitoring. We can pick radio button. So the option 1 value is going to be, it'll just be I. And then we'll click that checkbox, and then option 2 will be 2. And that will order it. So make sure you put the value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in chronological order, and then this is going to be the display name. So the display name is what's going to show up. I can also hide that display name. After I click those, I'm going to click Add, and here I have monitoring, and you're going to see it's going to group these radio buttons together, and you can see that's where the display name is going to show up. And if I navigate to the right here, I don't want to show the label for these, so I'm just going to hide those. And I can make this a little bit smaller. And voila. So these are grouped together. These are radio buttons. Now, same thing. You can edit these radio buttons. You can say, I just want to say that the sender can edit these and is required. So again, when I'm going to send this form, I can only pick one of these. I can't pick both. The checkbox, I can pick as many as I want. Okay, and I'll actually just add a couple more checkboxes in here. I'm going to hide the label, so I can't see the label. So I'll just add 2 in. Okay, so that's, I think we covered the radio buttons. We covered the checkboxes. A couple other form data fields that you have drop downs. So you can create a drop down. I don't have any on this form that I would see need to do. So maybe, for example, this number right here is either going to be $29.99, $49.99, or $59.99. I could add the option value 1 just like I did with the radio checkbox, and value 1 would be 59 or 39.99. Option 2 would be 49.99. And when I go to send this, I'll be able to just click on the drop down and pick which value I want to use. We covered the dates, the check boxes, we covered that, number, text field, pretty self-explanatory, date field, and you can have a date time field, and then don't worry about, you could do an object as well if you wanted to do an object. Now, I'm not going to fill out all these, but we're just going to go to page 2. So you can upload a PDF that's multiple pages, and here's how you navigate back and forth to the pages. So on page 1, and then I'm on page 2. So on page 2, I want to drag in a signature field, and this will allow you to create an electronic signature field. You can see I already have the name right there, subscriber, buyer, signature. So I don't need that agreed to by. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to resize this. Okay. And when I did that, that created a form data field, signature 0. And if I click on this drop down, maybe I want, when this form is signed, I want the IP address to automatically sit on top right here. So as soon as it's signed by the recipient, that IP address is going to be, it's going to sit right over that signature. Now you will have a signing certificate that you receive with any signed electronic forms as well, but this is just another level of security for you to ensure that these are binding. The name, you could have the signer's name auto-populate in this field, or you can create a form data field where you make them required to actually type their name in. Completely up to you. But when they sign this, this will automatically print their typed name in. So you can set that up how you want. You can also have the address auto-populate, or you can have them fill that out, and then maybe you add another signature box for your company to sign, or maybe you already have that signature on this specific form. So that's completely up to you. And so for mine, I don't have a signature in there, but maybe you have a signature that is just on the form and you use that every time. So with that, that's how you create your templates. Once you're done, you click save, and you can go back to the available forms. Okay. And this will take you back to all of your templates. Okay, I'll cover a couple of these questions at the end. Now jumping back, if we want to use the WYSIWYG editor, I'll cover this quick. And my webinar Tuesday, if you're an AlarmBiller user, we will be going over a complete webinar on just creating custom proposals. So I highly recommend sitting on that one. When you create a WYSIWYG though, and you're using our designer mode, let's say you do an integration at AlarmBiller at the proposal level, okay, and you don't upload a PDF and you click update. It's basically going to give you a blank canvas that you can build and create your forms. Now, in the top, you see how there's different sections here. You can expand or contract these. And if you look at these question marks, this will tell you where this data will appear. And so for the page header, will appear at the beginning of each page. So if I have a document that's 10 pages, this data that I put in here will show at the top of every page. So something you might want to have on here would be like a picture. Maybe you have your company logo and you want to add your logo in. So I just add my logo. So all I did was I dragged a picture. I can upload one from my desktop on my computer, or I can use previously used. So once I upload a picture, it'll go into an archive and I can use that over and over. So here, this would sit at the top here. Now, on this form, maybe I want the page number too. So if this is multiple pages, so this data up here will show on the form no matter what. And then maybe I want a text box that says estimate on here. So I'll give you a sneak preview, but we will be going over this in more extent on next week. So time more, and then I want to change the font to 24 and just have this say estimate. Okay. Now right here, this is going to show up the header will appear only once at the beginning of the printed document. So again, if this is 10 pages, this will just be on page 1. Here's the body. The body of the document will expand vertically if it contains any list elements, aka if I have proposals created in AlarmBiller and there's 3 pages of parts, and I actually come into my proposal and I add my charges and I want these to auto-populate this form, this will expand onto the next page. Okay. This will be the footer. It will appear only once at the end of the document. So something that you would want in here would be maybe a signature box, and any other, maybe your terms are just showing up on the last page. And down in this box right here, this will show up on the end of each page. Okay, and so that's the footer. Now on the bottom here, there is one extra section, the page settings. So you can change the page size. If I want to have a legal, I can make it larger. Letter, can make it smaller. And I can also add pages. So now I have page 2. And you can see it actually took, since this is going to be at the bottom of each page and this shows up on every page, you can actually add multiple pages in here. And then to delete the section, you can just click delete section to do that. Okay, again, so a quick example, if you have your charges in here, and I'll go into this in more detail, but maybe I want to take out my rate, just a quick teaser, and I just want my quantity down here. And then I want to have my, let's just do like a total amount. This is a text box, and then in this, I want to have, out of my proposal, I want these. So maybe you want to create a custom proposal, and I want the total amount to show up. Okay, and then let's save this. So this is how you build a WYSIWYG editor. So all the fields we just covered with the PDF, you can create those fields. You can have a map. There's some additional functionality with some of the proposals and data that can pre-populate. But like, for example, if I just wanted to take a look at a preview of this for Ryan, here's what this would look like. So you can see as this comes together and as you add all your fields and customize and create it, you can create that custom look and feel using that designer mode. This is nice also, for example, if you have like a PDF or a contract and maybe the language is always changing. Well, I can't go on to a PDF on this application and just change text that's already on that PDF. I'd have to re-upload it and add in additional fields and make the changes. So this is nice if even if you wanted to build your contract directly out of this, you technically could as well. Okay, so I'm going to go back to available forms.